do 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 do. Mm, 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 mm. Mm, 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 mm. Mm, 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 mm. Mm, 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 mm. Mm, 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 mm. Well, good morning, my fellow change agents, transition champions. It's another good day to have a good day. And as you guys know, we've been shouting it loud for 23 days now, but everything must change. And listen, if somebody needs a change agent, I believe that we are fostering a community of change agents, transition champions. You are that one. Like, listen, there will not be any doubts or reservations or hesitations in this crew because we ready. We ready. We are ready. You guys are ready. And it has been an incredible journey. If you've been enjoying this thus far, just put some smiles in the chat. Let's start it off with the smiles. Like, listen, it's been so good. It's been so enriching. And I'm telling you, I've enjoyed this journey with you guys. I'm so excited, man. I just know that God is doing something that all of us are going to just be so proud of ourselves in the sacrifice and the time we dedicated to doing something different, right? If you do the same thing, you get the same results. However, I know for y'all have absolutely decided you're going to do something different. You're going to do something that creates an opportunity for a different outcome in your life. And getting up in these mornings, studying, reading, all of this is very different. All of this is very new. And when you hand God new seed, guess what? You can expect a new harvest. So go ahead, man. Put some grains in the chat. Put some harvest in the chat. Like harvest time is coming. Harvest time is coming because guess what? We're no longer handing God empty vessels, but we're handing him full vessels and saying, overflow us. So let's get some harvest in the chat. Let's get some waves in the chat. It is going to be a good day because guess what? We've been at it. We have been at it. And I know that God is a just God. Whatever we sow, he is faithful to return the harvest into our lives. Like God will never be outgiven. Just think about what you are sowing right now with your time, what you're sowing right now with your talents, what you're sowing right now with your treasure. And just know God will never be outgiven. Whatever you sow into the kingdom, God will return. There's a harvest coming. 2023 is going to be the best year ever. And I'm just glad to be on this journey with you guys. Like, I'm glad to celebrate these moments, but I'm going to be incredibly excited to celebrate the victories that are coming. Look, the businesses that will be birthed, man, the opportunities that will be seized, the moments that you will walk in, like every opportunity, man. Let's celebrate this thing together. Like we are not going around like nothing has changed because everything has truly changed. Who you are is so far away from who you were 23 days ago. You are better. You are greater. You are filled. You are beginning to overflow. And it's time for us to respond as though we've changed. And I'm so excited today. And man, if y'all are ready, y'all know I love to give my little intro. That's my little intro. If y'all are ready, understand I am ready. Been excited, got my stuff ready, prepared. I like set up last night just in anticipation of this morning. And I was just sitting here. Now I tried to talk Amber into doing one of these with me. She said, Daddy, like, she's on her little winter break. And so she's trying to break. I'm like, look, baby, no days off. No days off. I know you're 5 years old, but I need you to get this in your spirit. This in your spirit. But yes, if you see her run down here, just know I gave her an invitation to join the Transition Champions, the Agents of Change, right? And like I always say, man, everything's going to be different, not simply because of what I'm saying, but because of the decisions you make in response to what God is stirring on the inside of you. Like I say before, listen, we can keep talking that talk, but if we're not willing to walk that route, practice what we preach, then we are just wasting our times. But listen, everything that you are being stirred about, everything that you are getting and gaining, it's leading to making decisions, making what we call behavioral congruence, where your decisions are lining up with the trajectory of where God is taking you. So don't be afraid to make decisions. Don't be afraid to make choices. All of these talks, all of these mornings are leading towards you being a better decision maker, a quicker decision maker, a more confident decision maker, a more convicted decision maker. Like, you are a person that will make decisions. And I'm telling you, as every decision that you make, every change that you bring, I believe that you're not doing it in your own strength, but I believe that there's a power available right now for us and a grace available right now for us to make the decisions that need to be made, for the people around us to support the decisions that God is calling us to make, that are going to propel us into our next season. Listen, all of this is about you believing better so that you can do better by choosing better. Like, all of this is about you truly believing in you, man. You guys are waking up saying that I believe in me. I believe in the work that God started. The Bible tells us that God started a work and he's faithful to complete that work. And so this is you coming in partnership with the work that God has started in you. Listen, I'm so excited. I'm fired up. If you fired up, let's put some fire in the chat. Woo! Some fire in the chat. Listen, and I'm going to use this morning to talk about some of our beginning principles, right? And so our success principles, we hit these up in the beginning. It's truth is, new beginnings require a new commitment, and a new commitment requires room. And so we're saying, absolutely, without a doubt, like, we will no longer think that we can do new things without making new commitments. Like, if we believe a thing, that means we should be doing something in response to what we're believing. And if we're doing something in response to what we're believing, that means there must be room available for what it is that we're doing. So we have to do what, team? One, two, three, make room. Make room. Like, we are growing in efficiency, we're growing in effectiveness. So there's always room available for what God wants to do in our lives. We understand that if God is going to do a new thing, there must be a commitment we make, a new thing we take on because of what the new thing God has brought. And so if there's no room for new, how is God going to do something new in our lives? And so we have to be making room. We have to be growing efficiency. We have to getting our days just more and more effective. If your days have been getting more effective, if you've been getting more efficient, just put some plus signs in the chat. Like, I have been adding time to my life. Put some clocks in the chat. Like, I've been growing in efficiency. I've been growing in effectiveness. I have started this process. I am in it. I'm making the decisions, and I'm doing what? Tackling my toughest task first, getting that out the way. I'm actually getting up earlier in the morning and using this time. And I know some of you guys might not be perfect yet in it, but what I'm saying is, what to do. And it's so important, because a lot of times we want to be better, we want to get better, but we don't even know the first action step. But you guys do. Change agents and transition champions know the first step to any new beginning, and that's to make room, grow in efficiency, grow in effective, wake up earlier, tackle your toughest task first. Because truth is, a new vision and a new purpose requires what? A new you. And so you understand, just the same way an actor approaches their role, they become the very role they want to be. Listen, I went and saw the Whitney Houston movie, and people were commenting on, man, how much the leading actor embodied who Whitney Houston is. And it's like, it's amazing to me the amount of sacrifices that people go through, actors go through, so that they can play a part exactly how it was designed to play. Like, they're like, I have to become, study, learn the mannerisms, I have to do all of these things so that I can be effective in that position. We see that in actors, But guess what? We should be practicing and modeling that same thing in our lives. Like, if God has called us to be a thing, then we should study it, understand the mannerism, understand how we are to interact with that calling. I don't want to just know the calling of God upon my life. I want to become the calling of God upon my life. I want to know how to operate in the environments God has taken me to. I want to become what God has called me, not just know what God has called me. I want to change into everything that God has called me to be. Because guess what? One thoughtful moment is worth more than 1,000 mindless traditions. What does that mean? That means that I am absolutely taking all of me to everything that I'm doing. I am absolutely making sure that, listen, I'm not just here randomly wandering. Like, no more wandering in life, no more just aimlessly moving around. Like, absolutely, if I'm present, I'm 100% there. If I'm there, you understand that I'm bringing all of me to the table. I'm going to show up. I'm going to be active. I'm going to be involved. I'm not just sitting back, but I've made a decision that if I'm in the room, I'm going to use my time effectively. If I'm there, all of me is going to be there. Why? Because the truth is, there's nothing more threatening to the progress of a new thing than an old mind. I don't know why I pause every time I get to this, but every time I get to this, I just think, like, how many times in my life I've been around old minds trying to do new things. When I tell you, this is just the truth. Like, oh my God, there's nothing more threatening to a new thing than an old mind. Like, man, when there is just an absolute refusal to even embrace something new, it is cancerous. Like, I mean, I'm not talking about you gotta like it, but Jesus, at least try. You know what I'm saying? And so we're like, we don't want to be that old mind. We want to be that renewed mind. And so let's, as we are cultivating others, we are cultivating ourselves to say, no more old mind, like no more old way of thinking. Like, I cannot bring my old mind to this new thing that God has for me, right? Because truth is, the thoughts you meditate on form the identity you walk in. And so that's why it's so important that it's like, man, I'm bringing my new mind to the table. I'm bringing these new thoughts to the table because guess what? At the end of the day, the thoughts you meditate on absolutely form the identity you walk in. Like, you are going to reflect what you have been conceptualizing in your mind. What you were thinking in your mind is going to come out through your actions. It's something that you cannot avoid. And so it's like, my mentality is that of a champion. My mentality is that of a decision maker. My mentality is that of where I'm going, because my mind is always going to arrive before my body shows up. I want to be prepared when the lights come on, not wondering what to do when the lights come on. And what does that mean? That means I start thinking about how I would respond in the environment I'm going to, in the position God has taken me, before I even arrive. Like, I know what I'm going to do. One of the questions I ask people all the time when they're like, listen, I'm just wondering what to do. There's an easy thing to dream about. Like, if somebody were to give you $1 million a day, what would you do with it? Like, where would you put it? How would you spend it? Like, just these are the things that you want to start thinking about, because before you arrive there, before your body gets there, your mind has to go there. Trust me, if you haven't thought about what to do with it, God is not about to pour it out. God pours into places where they already have pipes in the ground. It's ready to go. Like, no wasted resources, no wasted time. Like, we are not about that. So just start today. Start thinking about, what would I do with $1 million? What would I do with 5 million? What would I do with 10 million? And understand that you must have these pipes in the ground for the flow to get turned on. Otherwise, it just will be wasted resources. Your mind has to go there before your body arrives. It isn't wasted time, it is fruitful seed sowing time into you and the belief you have in what God and where God is taking you. This has been some good meat eating already. Just go ahead, put the food in the chat. Y'all already know. Put the fruit in the chat. Oh, it's a good day, because what are we about to do? We're about to plan our purpose, our picture, our plan, and our accountability. These are our 4 parts of a great new beginning. And I wanted to bring back some pictures, right? In our perfect day formula book, guess what, guys? yesterday we actually finished the book. And so I'm going to take this time just to recap some of our like highlighted moments that we've had. If you've had some highlighted moments from the Perfect Formula book, put them in the chat. I can see the chat. We'll interact. We'll talk about it. But I want to take these moments now to talk about some of the highlighted moments from our Perfect Formula book as we go to forming our plan together. And one of the biggest moments I can say for myself was just this understanding that see your morning as seed. See your morning as seed. Like everything you sow in the morning, you will reap in the evening. If you sow control, you'll reap control. If you sow peace, you'll reap peace. If you sow being on time, you'll reap being on time. Like see your morning as seed for a harvest you'll reap in the evening. Like everything I do, if I invest in myself, I'll reap a harvest from the investment I put into myself. Like my morning is seed time for my day, seed time for my future, seed time for my family, like seed time for the next generation. My morning is seed sowing time, and I will reap a harvest throughout my day and for the year to come, for months to come, weeks to come. But we have to see our morning as seed. We're setting the pace for what we will receive in the evening. Yes, I see y'all. I see Miss Melanie. I see you in there in the chat, right? See your morning as seed. See your morning as seed. Yes, Miss Rosalind. See your morning as seed. You need a daily schedule. Absolutely, Miss Rosalind. Like your schedule is one of the most critical parts to your success. Why? Why is this important? Because structure releases freedom. Structure releases freedom. It's like if I want freedom, I must have great structure. Structure releases freedom. And so it's not even simply about having that daily schedule, but now we've grown to the point of understanding I must have time allotted for everything on my schedule. I must have time allotted for everything on my schedule. Like nothing is randomly happening. Like I actually know how long it takes for me to do each task on my list, and I stick to it. I stick to it. Why? Because it helps me grow in efficiency. It's like we said this before. This is one of the big moments. Like, I don't want anybody to have an expectation of me that's greater than the standards I have for myself. Like, your standards for yourself should be greater than anybody's expectation of you. And a lot of people run away from time frames, they run away from deadlines. And it's like, no, you should see deadlines as an opportunity to grow in efficiency, grow in effectiveness. Because what am I going to do? I'm making room. I'm making room. And no one should have a greater expectation of me than the standard in which I hold myself to. Like I absolutely should be holding myself to a higher standard than anybody else is. If you said it should take 30 days, I'm setting the stage to say it's going to take me 25. Why? I'm continuously growing in efficiency. Yes, yes, you guys. I see you guys interacting. Yes, this is good. See your mornings at sea. Deadlines help you grow in efficiency. I see you guys. Thank you guys. Man, listen, it is awesome, awesome, awesome. But listen, we also talked about this, right? The greatest distraction to your joy is the unattended task you haven't completed. Listen, a lot of times we have this underlining disturbance or this underlining lack of peace due to the unattended task that we know we need to do. It's hard for you to have peace when there's tasks left unattended. It's like you're trying to get God to get you to be okay with what's not okay. And God's not going to let you be okay with what's not okay. And so we see ourselves like, man, I just can't settle down. Well, are there tasks that you are supposed to attend to that you have procrastinated on that now is leading to you feeling a lack of peace? I'm trying to tell you, you feel a release when you start getting things done. And so that opposite also applies. As things start to pile up, you start to feel a burden and a weight. And many people are praying for peace when they need to just take action on the unattended task of their lives. Yep. Yeah. We also talked about understanding that procrastination isn't just simply a decision. Procrastination is a force working against your progress. Procrastination isn't just a decision to delay something. Procrastination is a force, a power working against your progress. And if you leave that force or that power unattended, it will result in condemnation in your life. Procrastination isn't just a decision to delay doing something, it is me activating a power against my progress that left unattended will end in condemnation. Listen, procrastination is one of the greatest inhibitors to your progress because it's more than a decision. It is a force working against you. It is like turning on hurricane force winds and putting it straight into your face, opening up the wind sails on a sailboat and saying, let me try to walk forward. Procrastination will absolutely rob you of your peace, your progress, and your destiny. Don't play with procrastination. Like we say before, ketchup belongs on your food, not on your life. Listen, I see you, Miss Joanna. She's saying this is helping me complete everything in a timely way. Um, Oh, Miss Rosin, Lord have mercy. Miss Felicia Robinson, figure out what matters and focus on it. Absolutely. You have to figure out what matters and focus on it. Listen, conquer, control, and concentrate. That's right, Miss Diana. That is our principles. Like we conquer, control, and we concentrate. We conquer the morning, control the afternoons, and concentrate on the evenings on what it is that we have to do the next day. Wasted energy is focusing on what you don't have the power to influence. And we have to stop wasting energy. If I don't have the power to influence it, I am not even considering it. Like there's no point. I pray about it and I don't worry about it. I pray about it and I don't worry about it. But in our chapter reading today, right, 2 Corinthians 6, I love this so much, right? Because Paul comes to us discussing that we are God's partners. And he starts talking about what are the freedoms and liberties we have, what we have a right to as being partners with God. That's right, Shelby. Complete your biggest task first. Listen, stop being and asking for energy, Miss Melanie. You are absolutely right. Pray about it. Don't worry about it. You guys are on point this morning, man. Listen, as God's partners, right? As God's partners, Paul was letting us know we serve God whether people honor us or despise us, whether they slander us or praise us. He was saying, as partners with God, listen, we do what we do because we love God. Whether people are talking good about us or whether people are talking bad about us, who cares? I do and we do what we do as being partners with God. And he talked about in verse 3, we live in such a way that no one will stumble because of us and no one will find fault with our ministry. He's saying, so we hold ourselves to that higher standard. Like we don't want anybody to stumble because of something we did, because we are partners with God. Like as people experience us, they should experience the fruit of being with somebody who's been with God. And he's saying we take that seriously. We own that. And that's why we don't allow how people interact with us change how we respond, how we act, what we do. Like, listen, we are absolutely firmly convinced that if God be for us, who can be against us? And so because of that, we just aren't tossed to and fro by every wind of doctrine. And verse 4, he says, we patiently endure troubles and hardships and calamities of every time. He's like, listen, I bring patience to the troubles that I face in life. I bring patience to the calamities that I face in life. Why is he saying this? He's saying, because I don't want people to see me panicking because they'll think that God is a panicker. If people see me fretting, they'll think that that is how God raises his people. And we absolutely know that God is our umpire of peace, that God create stillness in the midst of the storm. We understand that God gives us the courage to overcome what has come against us. And he's like, so handle yourself accordingly as a partner of God. As a partner of God, understand that you are representing God. And so, because of that, I carry myself a certain way. I talk a certain way. I don't allow people to come against my character to change how I behave. Like, listen, in verse 16, he says, for we are the temple of the living God. Like, we are his home. Like, he resides in us. And because of that, I represent the kingdom well. I represent God well. I represent the kingdom of God well. Listen, put some food in the chat. I can't think of an emoji that represents that represents that. But listen, oh, put a church house because we are the temple, right? Put a church house in the chat because we are the temple of God, and absolutely, without a doubt, we carry ourselves to a higher standard because of that. Like, we don't allow anyone's expectation of us to be greater than the standard in which we are with holding ourselves. Like, listen, bring that smoke, boss. Bring the smoke. Bring the smoke. But now I want to go over to our Trust Me book, right? I see you got the crowns in there, Callahan. Yes, coach. I see you got the church house in there. Your church house a little different than my church house. And I don't know what type of phone you got there, but hey, man, listen, in the Trust Me book, we just came out of talking about seasons, and Pastor was just helping us to understand seasons, times, and seasons. But really, we start talking over to making a commitment. And this is what he opens up by saying, like, the people who are easiest to seduce into doing something other than what God has told them are the ones who have not already committed themselves to doing what he has shown them. He's like, to remain uncommitted to what God has currently told you leaves open the opportunity for you to be tossed to and fro. In other words, we hear and we do. The longer you wait to do what God says, the greater the opportunity for you to be tossed to and fro. It's like, if you continue to be very reluctant concerning what God is telling you to do, it's not just you growing in reluctancy, it's actually you growing in carelessness and creating an atmosphere where you can be easily tossed to and fro. It's like, in order for you to remain committed, in order for you to remain firm in the things that God is doing in your life, you have to be about the action. You have to kill the procrastination, and you have to be like, listen, if God tells me to do something, I make the decision, I make the change, understanding that it's not just me making a decision, making the change, it's me getting firmly rooted in the things of God. Like, as I respond to the things God is telling me, I become firmly rooted in the things God's called me to do. It's hard to have deep roots if I'm not pouring the seed of obedience on every word God's taught me. That's the line. It's hard for me to have deep roots if I'm not pouring the water of obedience on every word that he shares with me. Y'all put some water in the chat, just some water on the chat. We're going to throw water on every seed that God gives us. What's water? Water is me obeying the word that he gave me. It's hard for me to have deep roots while I'm not pouring the water of obedience on every seed that God gives me, everything that God asks of me to do. Because listen, this is what Pastor wanted us to realize. He's like, most of our victories and successes are right on the other side of our toughest challenges. If you can just overcome the challenges of the present season, then you can rejoice in your success on the other side. And it was so important. He's like, listen, you got to understand that this is just the reality, that on the other side of most of our most challenging season lies the victory that God has for us. And we know it's because through those challenges, we are firmly planted in integrity. We are firmly grown in conviction. We understand that as we go through and we endure, God builds our faith. He builds our foundations in ways that we just couldn't without what we had to go through. It's like you become who God's called you through to be as you go through different trials, go through different moments through life. And that's what creates the opportunity for you to be able to handle what God brings into your life. That is just the reality of the situation. situation. And that's why he's saying just be committed, be firmly planted. Like Paul just said before, be unmovable because of who God is, understanding that it is true. On the other side of my roughest season are breakthroughs. It is the truth. Oh man. And so he reads Galatians 6 and 9. So let us not lose heart or grow weary or faint in acting nobly and doing right. For in due time, at the right appointed season, we shall reap if we do not lose heart or relax our courage and faint. He was like, we will not quit. Therefore, we cannot be defeated. That's where this comes from. And he says, when you start, this is so beautiful. When you start feeling that your heart has changed towards your commitment, you need to pray and you need to get your heart stirred up again, because quit happens long before stop occurs. Be like David, encourage yourself in the Lord, remind yourself of the promises of God, stir yourself up with scriptures that remind you of God's faithfulness. I believe that's beautiful, because a lot of times we don't want to own up to when our commitment is starting to waver. And understand, once your commitment is starting to waver, it's not going to be long before your belief starts to crumble. Like my commitment wavering is the first signs of my belief starting to crumble. And so when I see myself and where you see yourself starting to lose commitment in the thing that God has called you to do, understand that next up is your belief in that very thing. And so pastor says, listen, when you see the commitment starting to dwindle, you need to get yourself restirred in that moment. You need to remind yourself of what God has promised you. You need to remind yourself of his faithfulness. When you start to realize that your commitment is starting to waver, is when you need to start to take immediate action. Because if you don't attack your lack of commitment dwindling, understand that your belief is what's next. Commitment wavers, then belief falters. And so as people, you have to be honest with yourself. Like, man, I'm loosening my commitment to what this is that we've been doing through these challenges. I've been loosening my commitment on my formula. Understand, if you do not tighten up your commitment when it starts to waver, you'll lose belief in everything you've invested your time into during this challenge. You will lose your belief that it can be effective. And so he's like, when you see your commitment start to waver, stir yourself up. Like if you go, I see people all the time, it's like they go from serving, you know, all the time to like dwindling down, and then they wonder how they end up in disbelief. Well, because your lack of commitment is just the gateway to your belief starting to crumble. And so you have to attack that lack of commitment. You cannot allow your commitment to waver. Your commitment is your reminder to yourself that through every season, I will remain faithful to what God has said. Just in being committed, sticking to what you said, showing up when you said you was going to show up. Stay committed. Do not. It's like there's this thing. I don't want to go here this day, but it's like people are trying to hide their lack of commitment in under the excuse of convenience. And I don't think y'all understand this, but we'll make this very clear. And I think you guys will understand this too. There's nothing convenient about being successful. There's nothing convenient about being progressive. Like you don't progress through means of convenience. You progress through means of sacrifice. You become successful through means of sacrifice, commitment, and diligence. Like, I'm not trying to make my life convenient. I'm trying to make my life effective and efficient. Like, structure releases freedom. Like, but I don't decide. Like, it's oh man, it's just time to tighten up. Like, I don't need my life to be convenient. I need my life to be efficient and effective, and that releases freedom. Listen, hey man, I done lost track over here. Samuel Chan. Oh, if this has been some good eating, just put some food in the chat. Put some food in the chat. I see you, Damar. Do not hide from commitment. You right, sir. Tighten up. That's good. You right, Miss Janelle. Consistency, right? Consistency is the key to breakthrough, not convenience, right? Like, really? Oh man. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. I see our Bahamian family getting in this morning. But yes, yes, yes. Oh, this is so good. I want to share these principles with you, these leadership principles, obviously the bigger, faster, stronger leadership book here. But it says proper people placement prevents problems. Proper people placement prevents problems. When people are in the right place, problems are avoided. Proper people placement avoids problems. And we talked about earlier about making sure that we understand who the people are around us and they are in proper places. Because when people are in proper places, problems are avoided. Poor people performance prevents prosperity. Poor people performance prevents prosperity. Like people performing poorly will always prevent prosperity. Like if you're trying to figure out how to increase your income, then you need to have proper people in the right place. Listen, people in the wrong place will always prevent the prosperity of what you are doing. Like it will always have a lid when people are out of order in your life. In order for things to prosper and to propel, people must be in the proper places. How do I know that people are in wrong places? Because there's problems everywhere. When people are in the right place, the problems decrease and the prosperity increases. And so if you're experiencing a season of downturn economically, then you need to realize that I got the people around me who help me become all that God has called me to be. They are out of place. You need to retain, resign, or release. You're right, Miss Alma. That is absolutely it. We need to look at every relationship and we determine, do I need to retain this, reassign this relationship, or release this relationship? Because guess what? Proper people placement will absolutely avoid problems and cause prosperity in what it is that you are doing. If you're lacking prosperity and you have a lot of problems, that means people are out of place. Man, that is so good. Our responsibility as leaders isn't just to cast compelling vision and to tell people what to do. Our task includes creating a diverse team of creative, insightful, and passionate men and women who are dedicated to the Lord, the cause of one another. I this is so important. You want the people you around to equally support each other. Like you got to understand, like a lot of times where people are just looking as a leader for the team to support what it is the overarching vision is of what they are doing. But you have to get into the details and make sure that as the overarching vision is being accomplished, that people's individual goals are succeeding at the same time. You have to make sure that your team is not only willing to support the overarching vision, but to play some role in supporting each other's vision. It creates absolute, just an integral interwoven team that is strong when you actually make it a demand that they support each other and what they personally may have going on. Understand that people will always, 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 always want to know how much you care before they care how much you know. And so it's so important that we're making sure that our team and the people around here are also equally supporting each other as we are all supporting the overarching goal. We can't be afraid of talking about what people's goals are as though they're going to compete with what the overarching vision is. But it's our job as leaders to see how they are interwoven, how they're connected, and how we all can move forward as we progress. You're right, Sean Callahan. That's that teamwork, man. That's that teamwork. And understand this, that, man, most often when you have a big vision and creative people, all things start with a disagreement. This was big. I thought this was so cool for us to realize that when you have a big vision and a super creative team, everything almost starts with a disagreement. Why? Because people have heavy convictions and clear sight of what they see. And it becomes your role as the leader to show them how they're all interconnected and work together for our good. Don't find it as a negative that when you first initiate something, that there's people that see things differently. Understand that that's just sign that you have a super diverse and creative team, which is absolutely what you want. But it just puts you as the leader in the position to say, how can I harness what they all see to align it for where we are going? It's not a negative. It's actually a very positive thing. Whew, if this has been good, put the food in the chat. Yes, let's go. Yes, let's go. Man, I thought this was really good. So I'm going to read it to you for our closing inspiration. You're right, Miss Rosalind. Big vision, big provision, right? And this is such a simple statement, but just think about this. Thomas trusted Jesus enough to die for him. Do you trust him enough to live for him? Thomas trusted Jesus enough to die for him. Do you trust Jesus enough to live for him? Wow, what an incredible challenge. What an awesome perspective. Like Thomas trusted Jesus enough to die for him. Do we trust Jesus enough to live for him? That's all he's asking, is you for live for him today. Listen, I thank God for you guys. I thank God so much for what we are developing, creating in this community. Look, super excited. I'm super excited about our next chapter as we phase into our different accountability groups, and the professional accountability comes in, the social accountability comes in. But listen, y'all already know. Mr. Good News, Pastor Brian, Mr. Have a Good Day himself, Mr. Change Your Life, is not going to leave y'all alone on this journey. I will keep y'all stirred up, and I'm going to keep the pressure on. Why? Because everything must change. And we are those ones. I thank God for you guys. So good to see you this morning. Listen, hey, Dick Daryl. Good morning, good morning, good morning. I love you guys. And guess what? Till tomorrow, it's a good day.